Perpetual motion. It only ever works on YouTube. Today we are going to talk about electrical power, and if you stick around to the end of the video you will know a lot more about that, and you will also understand why the perpetual motion doesn't work and why the hardest part about designing a perpetual motion machine is to figure out where to hide the battery. Hello viewers, and welcome to a new STM32 World Electronics video. Essential electronics for embedded developers. Now, I'm not trying to make you electrical engineers with this video series, but I'm trying to provide enough information about electronics enabling developers, primarily embedded developers, to understand how to read a schematics, to understand what is actually going on from an electrical point of view. In this video, I am going to cover power, as indicated by the short intro with the perpetual motion machine. However, I'm also going to cover a topic that I forgot in the last video about diodes, and I'm going to do that first. So if you are here to view about power, to learn about power, check down in the description. There will be chapters and you can jump ahead to that. In the previous video, I was covering diodes, and I was going through the different types of diode: regular diode, silicon diode, LEDs, and I mentioned Schottkys, but I forgot to talk about the last one, which is called a Zener diode, and that is actually quite an important diode as well. I have fired up the simulation that I used in the last video, the diode video, where we have a voltage source over here, battery or whatever, going through a resistor and then going through a diode from the anode to the cathode, which is how a diode normally used. I showed in this video, I showed that if you flip this diode around, no current will run through it. I mentioned the breakdown voltage, where if the voltage become high enough, the diode will simply stop working. It'll blow through, and that is not what you want to do. I also mentioned something called the LEDs, which is essentially a diode, but it's a diode that emits light. But I forgot to mention Zener diodes, so I am going to do that in this video. Say, if we replace this diode with a Zener diode, and you can see the symbol is slightly different. There, you can see the voltage flow as usual, and there is a voltage drop of 0.6 volt approximately, in this case 619 millivolt. You would have to look that up in the datasheet for whatever Zener diode that you are using. However, a Zener diode is actually not used this way. The way you use a Zener diode is you actually reverse the voltage, so you have the high voltage on the cathode side and the low voltage on the anode side. So let's see what happens if we flip this one around. You can see no voltage is going, but if I increase this to, let's increase it to 15 volt and see what happens, you will see that a voltage is actually running. And if we look at the voltage over here, you can see it is 5.6 volt. So this must be a 5.6 volt Zener. We could create a new simple model here and say above the breakdown of 5.6 volt it is, but let's say we take a Zener diode of a breakdown voltage of 3.3 volt, and you will see now we can actually go back to our 5 volt voltage, and you will have approximately 3.3 volt over here. Now, so a Zener diode is pretty much a regular diode, but it's a diode with a very, very specific breakdown voltage that is designed in a way so it is you are supposed to drive through it. You can only drive a certain amount of current through it, so you still need the current limiting resistor, but you will have a constant voltage drop the reverse way over a Zener diode, and they can be bought in any size pretty much, so you can get any voltage over this. What is this being used for? Well, it is being used to create a simple voltage reference. So if you want 3.3 volt and you want a reference, now you obviously can't have much current supply here, because if you do that, you end up having a voltage divider, so the voltage may skew. But if you need a reference voltage, then you can use a Zener diode. They're not ultra precise, the standard ones. They do drift with temperature, so they're not exact, but they are fairly okay. The other thing you should know is that they are incredible. They can be incredible noisy, so they create all kinds of noise in a circuit. But if you see a Zener diode in a schematics, it will typically be to create a voltage reference, and you will typically see them in conjunction with a current limiting resistor. Now, that's all I wanted to say about Zener diode, which I should have included in the previous video, but forgot about. So electrical power is measured in watt, and it's a value of how much power is dissipated in or flowing through a circuit in a given time unit. What is if we look at the watt article on Wikipedia, you can see that in watt, that means 1 watt means that 1 joule is flowing through, is either dissipated or generated in each second. So that's 1 watt. It is measured in watt, and it is important to understand that watt is not a unit of energy. Energy is measured in, for example, kilowatt hours, and that means how many watts are flowing in an hour, and that is the total energy. Now, it is also important, and now we get back to the perpetual motion machine, is that in an isolated system, the amount of power is constant. We cannot create power. We cannot use power. We can convert one energy form to another. If we look at a standard battery, I have a battery pack here. What is happening inside this battery pack is that energy has been converted inside this to chemical energy. And when I hook up something to this, that energy will be converted back from chemical energy to electrical energy. Likewise, in an electric circuit, we will typically say that energy is, if it's either consumed, but it isn't consumed, it is actually dissipated. That means it is converted from one energy form to another. So let's look at that simulation that I did just a bit earlier with the Zener diode. You can see that we established that on this point there's 3.3 volt because this Zener diode is a 3.3 volt Zener diode, but that means, knowing what we know about Ohm's law and Kirchhoff's circuit law, since there's 5 volt there and there is 3 volt there must be a voltage drop across this particular resistor of approximately 1.6 volt, 1.7 volt, sorry, 1.7 volt across this resistor. Now, this resistor creates a voltage drop because a current flowed through it. And that means a certain amount of energy is dissipated in that resistor. And in the case of a resistor, it is being turned into heat. It could also, in certain cases, be turned into light, or it could be a motor, in which case it will be turned into a force of sorts, but it will be converted into something else. Or there may be some losses in heat along the way, or anything else. It might not be perfect, but all the energy is preserved. That's a fact. So if we look at this resistor will have a current, a certain amount of power dissipated in that resistor. And if we look down in the lower right corner, you can see that P in this case is 17.65 milliwatts. Now the formula, I mentioned the formula before, it is power equals voltage time. No, I didn't mention it, but I'll mention it now. Power is voltage multiplied by the current. So if we look back at the simulation, we will see here that the current is roughly 10 milliamps and the voltage drop is roughly 1.6 volt. So we are ending up with the 17.5 milliwatt by multiplying the voltage drop and the current that is running through it. That results in the power. And that formula in DC, when we're talking about resistive voltage, that will always be the case. But it's also the case for the Zener diode, because the Zener diode is creating a voltage drop of 3.3 volt. We know that, and that means power will be dissipated in this one as well. There is a total current running around this circuit of 10.5 milliamps, and that will all be dissipated because there is 5 volt here and there's 0 volt here. So it must go somewhere, and it's all turned into heat. So this one will dissipate 17.6 milliwatts, and this one will dissipate 34.8 milliwatt. And the total circuit, you multiply those two values and you have the total dissipation in the circuit. Why is this important, I hear you ask? Well, it is important when you're designing a circuit to make sure that you stay within tolerances of whatever components you're using. Let me just show you here. I can make myself bigger. I have a resistor, a simple through-hole resistor here. I think you can see it. It's very small. This one is actually a 4.7 kilo ohm resistor. But these small resistors, they cannot handle much current because they will simply get too hot and they will blow up. So this one, I believe it's probably a quarter of a watt, so 250 milliwatt you can dissipate in this resistor. But I also want to show you, I have another resistor here, which is considerable bigger, and it's a ceramic resistor, and if I read on this, it says 10 watt. So in this resistor, you can actually dissipate 10 watts at any. In fact, I bought them because I needed to put a load on something to test it out. They can get very hot, and they will still work fine. So 10 watt in this resistor, and this is 47 ohms. If we look at a random resistor on GLC PCB, you can see I've just found a random one here, which is the 0805. That's the size of this little surface mount resistor, and it is, you can see it here, it is a 4.7 kilowatt resistor, and you can actually see here that it's 125 milliwatt. If we go in and look at the datasheet, you can see that these chip resistors exist in various sizes. So you can have 0603, which is what I usually use, or 0402, which is so tiny you can barely see it. 0805 is actually a relatively big SMD resistor, but you can see over here you have the wattage, or the amount of power that it can dissipate without getting too hot, without blowing up. And you can see this one was a W8, it's here, W8, and 125 milliwatt they claim here on the LC PCB, and you can see in the datasheet that is correct, because it's an eighth of a watt that you can dissipate in this particular resistor. When I went to high school eons ago, we had an electronics teacher that used to joke that every time he was cooking in his kitchen, he would take an ohm meter and measure the resistance to the food he was making. And he did that because you never know, maybe one day he would stumble across a way to create a superconductor. Back then, superconductors didn't really exist. Today, we can actually make superconductors at very, very low temperatures, but a superconductor at room temperature is still elusive. So if we look at the simulation that I have used throughout this video, we have this circuit here. We have a voltage drop over, we have a resistor here, and over that there's a voltage drop. We have a voltage drop over the Zener diode, and it all ends up with 0. But in actual fact, in any circuit, the connectors will also have a resistance. They are not perfect conductors, they're good conductors, and it might be so little that we can't measure it, but there is a voltage drop in any form of connection, whether it's a cable or it's a PCB trace. There is a resistance on that trace, and that, I promise you, that is the explanation why why an electric perpetual motion machine at least will not work. You could imagine if you took a wire and just looped it around in a circle, and you somehow got a current to run in that and connect the two ends together, the current will just run forever. But no, it will not, because there will be a resistance in the wire, and that means that slowly that potential energy that you have flowing around as a current will dissipate out as heat eventually, and that current will stop running. Perpetual motion machines only work on YouTube. End of. So anyway, this was just a brief talk about, well, Zener diodes first. Sorry about that, but I simply forgot it in the last video, but mostly about energy. It is important to know because of, mostly in terms of electronics, mostly because of heat. If you start heating up things, bad things will eventually happen if you don't get rid of that heat. That's why we have fans in PCs and stuff like that. It is simply to get rid of the heat that is dissipated via power. And I wanted to mention the formula, which is important, that the power, wherever you have a voltage drop and you have a current, there is a power dissipated, and that power can be calculated by multiplying the voltage and the voltage drop and the current. End of. So as usual, I hope you enjoyed this video. Please do like and subscribe down below, and please do comment in the comment section below. And as usual, have a wonderful rest of the day.